What did it feel like when you continually asked to leave, to take Indy to get this care, and they said, no, we're keeping her here, and we want to remove her breathing support?
When I first got the offer from Italy, it just felt amazing. And I still went to the courts to get permission. I'm thinking, well, I shouldn't be going to court to get permission. I can remember the judge saying in the court, you can't force a doctor to do anything. But then you've got these doctors wanting to take a child in, so why wouldn't he let us go? And it just felt like so inhumane and evil, and it was hard, but I went back in the room, gave Indy a hug and a kiss and told her goodbye. The part where I say it felt like I was being dragged to hell, that's what it felt like. It just felt like I was in hell.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Lila Rose podcast. Today we're going to talk about the story of Indi Gregory. You may have heard about baby Indy from the last few months, the little 7-month-old girl in the UK who was ultimately killed, yes, killed, by the United Kingdom's socialized healthcare system. This story matters tremendously because this is happening with increased frequency in countries where doctors who are concerned about the bottom line and who are okay practicing the culture of death in their medical system get to call the shots instead of the patient or the parents of the patient. It's a very, very scary thing. So the United Kingdom, as you may know, has a universal healthcare system that is called the National Health Service, or the NHS. And it meters out healthcare. It meters out healthcare for the people of England, for the people of the United Kingdom. And it determines if your condition that you may be born with or you may get as a human being qualifies you for certain treatment or not. It's a scary thing when you're the parent of a newborn or a small child who there are treatments for, a baby that may have a condition, and that you cannot get those treatments because the doctors at the NHS are saying, no, we refuse to permit them. I want to get into the story today with Dean. We're going to actually interview Dean Gregory, who is the father of baby Indy. Baby Indy passed away a few weeks ago, horribly, after being deprived of breathing support by the NHS. Dean and Claire, the parents of baby Indy, fought very hard for months, appeal after appeal, losing them in the British court system, trying to get Indy's help and support. At one point, baby Indy was even offered and given citizenship to Italy, in Italy, becoming an Italian citizen so that Italy could pay for all transport and all medical care to provide this little baby with the actual treatments that she needed with the mitochondrial condition that she had so that she could live and she could thrive. And it was actually a Vatican hospital, Bambino Gesù, that offered her free care and expert support. And her parents wanted to take their daughter there. There are babies and there are children who have the same condition as baby Indy and who are living today. There's actually a 30-year-old who's alive today with the same mitochondrial condition. That treatment can help sustain the life of and improve the life of these children. Indy was not receiving that support in England, and they deemed her life ultimately not worth living. So we're going to actually hear from Dean himself in this episode. It's totally heartbreaking, but it's really important to hear what he went through and what happens when we surrender control and we ultimately give the culture of death power in a medical system to call the shots on what patients deserve to live and what patients deserve to die. Dean Gregory is the father of Indi Gregory, who, along with his partner Claire, heroically fought for Indy's life. This is his story. Welcome to the podcast, Dean. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
So I've been following your story, as many of our listeners on the podcast, over the last couple months and several weeks. And first of all, I just want to say I'm so, so sorry for the loss of your beautiful little girl, Indy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really hard. As you can see, Indy's on the picture behind us.
I see that. Beautiful little girl. She was a totally beautiful, beautiful girl.
Yeah.
Well, some people are getting familiar with your story, and I'd love to start with the beginning. You and your partner, Claire, had Indy. Tell us about when you first found out you guys were pregnant with Indy.
Yeah, we found out, I think Claire was about 9 weeks pregnant. Then we found out. Then we went for a scan, and the first scan, everything was fine. There was no problems on the scans. It wasn't until we went to the second scan where they said that Indy had a little, they call it fallows. It's like a hole in the heart. And then,
what was that like when you found that out?
well, Claire's got a little hole in the heart, so we was kind of thinking it would be similar to what Claire had. It don't give Claire any problems. So we was a bit worried, but we were just willing to accept whatever Indy had problems. And then when we went to the second scan, they found that she had fluid on the brain. Ventricles was bigger than they should have been. We was a bit worried, but we didn't really know that much about it, to be honest.
What kind of medical advice were you being given around this time when you were first seeing the scans of Indy and kind of learning that there were some health problems?
Well, we got offered an abortion at pretty much every scan, to be fair. We just couldn't understand. It didn't matter to us if she had large ventricles or fluid on the brain or a heart problem. So every time we refused to have an abortion.
How did the medical team that was caring for you guys respond when you would say, no, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this?
I think they asked us every time, but I think they could just tell, even though they was asking us, we wasn't going to agree to it. I've got strong beliefs in things like that anyway.
I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about that. I mean, you and Claire, we're going to hear more about your story about how you fought for your daughter's life. But yeah. What is your background, and what is Claire's background, and what gave you that moral vision to see Indy's value? There's a lot of couples that are offered abortion when there's any kind of medical condition that their baby might have who's unborn, and a lot of couples, unfortunately, who choose abortion.
It's just, we've created a life, so to get rid of a life just because she isn't fully healthy just don't seem right to me or to Claire. You could say that that's just the way God created her, but it was our responsibility, whatever Indy came out like, to look after her.
Hey guys, it's a new year, 2024. It's time for some new meat. So you can check out goodranchers.com to get your American meat delivered. It's very cool because goodranchers.com, which is sourced 100% from American ranchers, is best in class meat, poultry, seafood, and pork. And they have some amazing deals right now for the new year at goodranchers.com. You can subscribe to get your meat package that comes in with free expedited delivery to you and get free chicken for a year. And guys, their chicken is amazing. A lot of the chicken from the grocery store today, I think, is just flavorless or bland or stringy. Good Ranchers chicken is delicious and juicy. You're going to love it. So if you subscribe now, you get $189 value free when you subscribe in the month of January. So do not wait. Go check it out today. That's goodranchers.com. Use the code Lila at checkout to get $20 off your subscription and your free chicken for the year. That's the code Lila at checkout at goodranchers.com. So walk me through when you found out, after you were finding out different medical issues that she may have, the process of, first meeting Indy after her birth and how Claire's delivery went.
When we was about to have Indy, obviously because of a heart condition and a fluid on her brain, they said that Indy might not come out breathing. So we was obviously stressed. We was really scared on the labour. Claire had the labour. I think it didn't really take that long, to be honest. Claire didn't have any drugs or anything. And then she came out and she was crying and she seemed perfect, which was a relief. So that was nice. It wasn't until I tried to feed Indy that she couldn't. She went blue when I tried to feed her with a bottle, so she couldn't swallow the milk.
And what was the process then to get her the care that she needed? And also kind of share with me how the medical team was responding to you both, because at this point, obviously you and Claire, you have a beautiful baby girl. She's having troubles feeding. You want to take care of her. Walk me through what that process was like, and then also how the medical team and what hospital was this that Claire delivered at and that Indy was cared for at?
She was born at City Hospital in Nottingham.
In England.
Oh, Yeah, in England. I went to feed Indy and she went blue. So they took Indy off me and they scanned her heart. And she had some green bile coming back up. So we got transferred to Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham. And they found out that she had a twisted bowel. So she needed an operation for that, which was, because she had an heart condition, we had to go to another hospital in Leicester, because they was heart specialists. So she went to Leicester. She had the bowel operation fine. They retwisted it. And then she came back to Queen's Medical Centre to have an MRI scan. And then after the MRI scan, she started having seizures. She just started having seizures out of the blue. Yeah, about 3.5 weeks old she was. So she started having seizures, and then we kept getting pressured to have a genetic test. I've been reading, I read upon genetic tests, and I can remember reading an article by a doctor saying that the dark side to genetic tests, and yes, it can be used to help people, but it can also be used to not treat people. So that was my biggest fear, and I kept refusing it. We kept refusing it, but in the end, I think they asked us 4, 5, 6 times. I felt pressured, and we did do it. And then, obviously, now my biggest fear came true, because it's like as soon as I got that piece of paper, that was it. Then they stopped wanting to care for her.
So she had, there's other, obviously, seizures are absolutely terrifying, especially for a little infant, but that has happened to babies before. There have been stomach issues, heart issues, babies, newborn babies in NICU sometimes have a lot of different conditions that their medical team, their parents have to work through. It's always, of course, very difficult. Are you saying that once they completed the genetic test, they stopped caring? Walk us through what that looked like, that they stopped treating some of the symptoms that she was exhibiting?
They were still treating them, but the problem is they kept pushing us to get in this genetic test. And then we agreed to do it. And then all of a sudden, when we got the results, we got handed a piece of paper by the doctor. It wasn't the genetic doctor, it was just intensive care doctor saying this is what Indy's got. And so I'm looking at this piece of paper with this name on it, and I haven't got a clue. So it kept playing on my mind. So a couple of days later, I was like, I need to have a meeting with the genetic doctor to explain to us what actually Indy has got. And they told us she had this mitochondrial disease, and it's very rare, apparently. And there was only a few treatments possible. One was a ketogenic diet, and one was a citrate therapy. The metabolic doctor told me about them. So when I asked the doctor, can she start the ketogenic diet? She was about 3 months old. He turned around to us and said, he don't think she'll like the taste, but she was being fed through a tube through her nose. So I looked at Claire and was like, what's going off here? Something's not right. So they didn't even start the ketogenic diet, which is one of the known things to treat it, or to help treat it. So they didn't start the ketogenic diet. And then there was in debates whether there was seizures or not seizures, whether it was something to do with breathing. So every time she would have a seizure, they would give her midazolam after 10 minutes. But then they started to say the doctor wanted to leave her in this episode for 2.5 hours without giving her any rescue drugs. So me and Claire had to sit there. There was bagging her while she was in this seizure for 2.5 hours. Even the doctor doing it couldn't look like what the hell's going off, to see if she'd come out of it on her own. And she didn't. And then when they gave her the rescue drugs later on, she came out of it. But he did it for 3 days on the trot. And it just, me and Claire, like, now looking at it back, it's like, was they trying to damage her? I mean, why would they do that for 3 days?
That's insane. So she'd be having seizures, she'd get treatment, she'd recover, but then the doctor decided, I'm not going to treat the seizure, even though she's in my care.
They tried to say that they wasn't sure, because the seizure medicines, she was still having seizures on the seizure medicines. That there was in debates. They couldn't decide whether she was having seizures or not having seizures. And they was trying to push us to a hospice, even at that point, at 3 months old. But the only way she could go to the hospice is if she could have a package where wasn't having the seizures, because obviously they don't do the bagging at the hospice. So he said that's the reason why he was trying to see if she'd come out of it, but she didn't come out of it until they gave her the medicines. But then he did it the next day, and I think he'd done it 3 times after that. And it just seems strange, leaving a child in that much stress for 3 hours. Looking back at it now, it's like, what was it trying to do?
For you to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was painful to watch. But at the time, we was thinking it's to help her, but it gives me doubts now, having seen everything we've gone through and stuff. Was it to do more harm? We just don't know.
So, Dean, there are, and there's been an incredible global response to your story. And there are stories that have emerged, and medical experts, in Italy, as an example, who, of course, offered to care for Indy at the Bambino Hospital in Rome. But there have been medical experts who have said children can live with this condition, and they can thrive. I mean, it's not an easy condition, but they can be treated. They can live with it, but they must get proper treatment. As you and Claire, you're learning about this for the first time, as you're learning about all of this, and you're not getting that care from the hospital, what was that experience like for you?
It was terrible. I mean, we just felt like Indy was being neglected. She wasn't getting even basic mitochondrial disease. Is like a basic things they should be getting, like amino acids and certain natural nutrients, and she wasn't even getting them. She would get an infection and they'll try and blame it on a condition, and they're saying it's a brainstem, and then it turns out she had sepsis, and it was just neglect. That's what it felt like. She was being neglected, like she wasn't worth the cost, because she'll need that little bit extra care, and because of her genetic condition and her short lifespan, or she wasn't worth the cost. That's what it felt like. And then we found 2 children in America who's got the same condition. One's 9 and one's 4. And then recently we found out that the oldest person with it is 30 years old.
Wow. And when you were discovering this, what would you say to her medical team and her doctor? I mean, of course, context for Americans here in England, there's a system of, you can call it socialized healthcare, and there's a certain standards that they have, and the patient may want care that the patient may not receive, and the doctors get to decide, not the patient in many cases. So what was it like for you and for Claire to be discovering all of these treatments, and about, child living to be 30, and someone who's 30 years old with the same condition Indy has, and then that care not being provided to Indy?
I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't until she was about 7 months old until I found out about the American children and the 30-year-old. But she caught sepsis E. coli off the ward, and then we was being told that this is her condition. And I'm saying, well, how can it be a condition when she's got sepsis E. coli? And they asked for us if they could bring in a second opinion doctor from Birmingham. And I said, no. I said, because surely it's unfair to have a second opinion when a child's got sepsis E. coli, which causes her to have CPR. I says, can't he just wait until she fights the infection and then come back? So, because we said no, he couldn't do it. But then when we came back in on the Monday, the doctor said he'd been to the NHS, he'd been to the trust, and they've advised him to bring him in anyway. So you've got a child who's got sepsis from catching E. coli in the hospital, then a Birmingham doctor coming in to do a report, which is going to make her look worse than what she actually is. And then I was thinking, why are they getting a second opinion? Then I started thinking, are they trying to build up a case against us? So in the back of my mind, I always knew something was happening. And then she got the sepsis, she beat the sepsis. Even a normal child struggled to beat the sepsis. She Started after 2 months of ketogenic diet, which she should have started straight away. And then she didn't have any seizures or anything for 2 weeks. The cluster is like clinically perfect pretty much. And I said to the doctor, can we bring the second opinion doctor back so we can do another report? And he said, oh no, it's too much trouble. That'll be too much trouble. And to me, it was just like, it's just, something wasn't right.
How incredibly frustrating and horrific.
It was terrible. I mean, this is the doctor who's supposed to be helping us and helping Indy. We hardly ever seen him. Indy never even seen a mitochondrial specialist doctor.
Wow.
She'd never seen a specialist.
So the hospital never permitted a mitochondrial specialist to come and look at a patient, a little girl who has this condition, to get her proper treatment, not once.
Only the metabolic doctors, what they had on the site, but there's mitochondrial specialists worldwide. Never came to see Indy once, no. Which was frustrating.
I have always had a hard time finding skincare products that I really liked and wanted to continue using. I've tried a lot of different products. So I was really excited to discover NimiSkincare.com. That's Nimi, Nimi, skincare.com. What's so awesome about Nimi is it's a beautiful brand that shares our values. It's a pro-life, pro-family brand. But that doesn't mean necessarily the product is going to be amazing. So I tried the product a few months ago and I fell in love. Nimi Skincare has an amazing vitamin C cream that I love using, an evening moisturizer that I've been using, and I also really love their sunscreen. They have amazing products that are simple. The ingredients are no nonsense. They're listed on the website. You know what you're using on your skin, and the price point is great. So check out NimiSkincare.com. I think you're going to really enjoy their products. That's NimiSkincare.com, and you can get 15% off your order using the code Lila at checkout. The part here that I think makes everyone who hears your story, Dean, outraged and concerned and heartbroken is the part where you went out of your way, you and Claire, fighting for Indy's life and for her care, to find specialists, to find alternative treatments that would be fully funded, so not on the taxpayer's dime in England. And what happened? Tell us about what happened when you found that care and you sought to get Indy taken from the hospital to be taken to the specialists who could actually care for her.
Well, we had, during the court, we got specialist reports. I got a cardiologist report from Ireland, a mitochondrial specialist from Canada. He was very high, like top level, and another one from Germany, all saying that if India had got the stent procedure, which is non-invasive, so it wasn't even an operation, it was just a stent going through the leg to the heart to open it up, that would help her breathing, and then they could focus on a genetic problem. She would have a good quality of life. But even with this, the judges didn't even want to know. They wasn't bothered. And it cost, I think the reports was thousands of pounds to get. And we didn't even get a fair hearing where they would look at it and bring them in or anything. It was just one-sided, the whole court system.
And it was her breathing that impacted her feeding, right?
The feed, yeah. I mean, I think with mitochondrial, sometimes they struggle to swallow. After the ketogenic diet, Indy stopped having seizures. So up until she was 3.5 weeks old, up until she was about 4 months, she was having seizures on and off. But then when she started the ketogenic diet, they stopped. The seizures completely stopped. And this is what made me fight for Indy, because I could see that with the right treatment, she could be good. And then because of her heart condition, when they didn't have the genetic reports, they said that we could fix Indy's heart when she's not having seizures. So if the seizures stopped, we'll give her the heart operation. But when they got the genetic report, they didn't want to, even though the seizure stopped, they didn't want to give her the heart operation. So to me, they didn't think she was worth the cost. Again, she wasn't worth it. That's what it felt like.
Dean, have you talked to other parents? Have you and Claire talked to other parents in England who have children with some of these different genetic conditions or health issues, especially very young children that have fought or are fighting to get the care, did not get the care because they were deemed not worth it?
We've spoke to, I mean, I've had people message me saying things like this, similar things have happened to them and the child's passed away and stuff like that. But physically talking to someone, I've spoke to another lady who was in the hospital at the same time, and her child's having seizures, and she's got mitochondrial disease, but a different mutation. And when this was all happening, she was literally crying, saying she's scared because the same doctors are treating her child, and she's scared. And she had a nurse come up to her because her child had a seizure. So in order to get access, they had to put a needle in the leg to get access to give her the drugs. And one of the nurses said to the mum, when do you call it a day? When is it enough? How much you're putting through? And it's just the mentality of the nurse. I'm thinking, so you'd rather let a child die than have a needle, which is a little bit of pain, what lasts probably 5 minutes. It's just the mentality in there. I don't know if they're being taught it or if it's just the normal in there. I'm thinking, and I told her, don't ever feel guilty for trying to save your child's life.
Wow. I mean, that is the culture of death versus the culture of life, the one that says we're going to not fight for life versus we're going to enable death, especially of those that are the weak and the most vulnerable. I want to ask you and get more into detail about Italy's amazing offer to your family, Dean. But first, what was Indy like when you were able to have time with her? I mean, this is covered. Your ordeal is full of the pain of wrestling to get her the medical care she needs and the things that she's enduring. But what was it like when you and Claire got to be with your little girl?
I mean, the first few months was like a roller coaster. We had to go to Leicester for an operation. She got over that fine. Then she went to Birmingham to have a shunt put in to drain the fluid off the brain. So the first few months was really scary, but after she battled the infection and she started the ketogenic diet, it's like she became a different child. You could hear her babbling, trying to speak. She was watching the iPad. She just seemed a lot more energetic, and she had a beautiful face. I mean, you'd hold her, and you could just see as soon as you hold her heart rate would come down, and she'd just relax, and she'd make noises, and you'd make noises back to her. She really was a beautiful little girl.
So you got, I mean, of course, there's the added complication of the first few months of her life, which are so important for a newborn. She's in a hospital. She's in a bed. You're not able to be with her, 24/7. You can hold her, but she's on this bed. But it sounds like when you were able to hold her and engage with her, she was responding like a little, a few-month-old baby would.
Yeah, we knew she might have had a few delayed problems, but she was very aware and awake, and you could see her. She moved fully, and she was alert. We put her in the baby swinger. She's gone on a beanbag. Even the nurse was like, "We can't believe how different Indy is now," because she was talking. You know what I mean? Because she was getting something that she needed. She started coming out in herself. It was only the infections kept setting her back. So they said she was perfect for 2 weeks and moved her on to a ward. She was on the ward for a few days, and then she ended up coming back up with another infection off the ward. It was I can't remember, the enterovirus. That's what took her back upstairs. And so it was a bit frustrating. And then on the last one, just before they took us to court, she went downhill again. And I said to him, "This is infection. This is just like before. No, this is a condition. This is a condition." And it turned, she got caught E. coli she had E. coli again in the stomach. So, and then she got better towards the end of court. So you can imagine that if Indy was really bad, then I wouldn't have been fighting, saying, no, she's okay. She come off all the blood pressure medications. She come off all life support. She only had the ventilation in for the lowest setting for weeks and weeks and weeks. So they was even saying, the doctors to us, she's in a much better place. But then when they knew that we had a court hearing, you'd read a witness statement from the doctor saying the total opposite. And that's what really got to me, is the lies.
So they would blame the conditions, they would blame these infections that she'd get at the hospital because the care was not top quality, and they'd blame it on her condition and use that as justification for, we're going to remove her feeding tube and her breathing assistance.
Yeah, they tried to blame on the condition. I mean, she was losing, at the end, she was losing, she had like diarrhea a lot. And they said her bowels are failing. This is her condition. And I was like, this isn't condition. She's obviously just got a poorly tummy or whatever. And then a few days later, we went to go on the ward, and half the ward's closed off. I'm like, oh, why is the ward closed off? Oh, because it's a sickness and diarrhea bug going around. I was like, and I'm sat in court saying that her bowels are thing, and it was unbelievable. But one of the worst parts for me and Claire was being taken into a room by a doctor and a nurse saying that we've been advised to take you to court. And if you say anything and put it on social media, we'll get reporting restrictions on you. And I was like, you've got no chance. I said, if anything like that happens, it's going everywhere. But I just couldn't believe it. It was like, we just couldn't believe it. Indy was only a few month old baby, 5-6 months. And you're hearing someone say things like this to you.
Horrific. You're fighting for her life. You're trying to get her the basic care she deserves. And they're threatening to not just sue you so that they can remove her care, but they're going to put a gag order on you so you're not allowed to tell anybody about it. Yeah.
This is why I spoke to, Charlie Gard's mom.
Charlie Gard, of course, yes.
Yeah, it's Mum Connie, yeah. She gave me the reporter's name for the Daily Mail. So I made sure that I had the story ready to go. So I thought there's no way in hell they're going to do that to me. So
EveryLife.com is America's pro-life diaper company. These are high-performing diapers and wipes for your little one. I think you're going to love the product. They are great diapers. We've ordered a lot of diapers at our house, and EveryLife does not disappoint. What's so wonderful about EveryLife.com is you're not only getting a great diaper and wipes, and they have other products that are coming, so check it out, but that EveryLife.com is a pro-life diaper company. They support your values, and they donate some of their proceeds back to the pro-life movement, including groups like your favorite, Live Action. So check out everylife.com today. You can use the code Lila at checkout for 10% off your order. Order that bundle of wipes and diapers for that new little niece or nephew in your life, your new son or daughter, your friend's baby. It's a great gift. They also have these cute new mom baby boxes. Check it out at everylife.com and use the code Lila at checkout for 10% off your order. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, said they say there isn't much hope for little Indy. She's talking about these doctors who wanted to remove her care in England, of course. But she says, but I will do everything in my power to defend her life and to defend her mother and father's right to do everything that they can for her. In a remarkable move, your little daughter was granted Italian citizenship to help her to help with the justification of moving her from the UK to Italy to get care in Italy at a elite children's hospital. And this care would be fully funded and she'd get the proper care for her condition. How did this all take place? Did you get in touch with authorities in Italy? How did this amazing opportunity present itself?
Well, in the UK, the guardian angels for us in the UK was the Christian Concern. They really helped us. And for me, they was like heroes. They're an amazing group. They're brave. They're willing to help people, even though they know it's pretty much a losing battle, but they're still willing to help people. But the Italy was a lawyer, a senator called Simone Pillon. He's an amazing guy. I got in contact with him, and then he was contacting everybody in Italy, and that's what happened with Italy anyway. Simone Pillon is an amazing guy again. Just wants to fight for what's right, and it was all fully funded. The UK didn't have to pay for anything. Italy was even going to send a helicopter over. So again, we just couldn't understand how can you say no? We'd go to Italy. If Italy turned around and said the UK's right and there's nothing they can do, then we can accept that. We've just got to deal with it because that's what it is. But it's like they was afraid that Indy could live, and they didn't want to be ashamed because they wasn't willing to spend the money, or they didn't think Indy was worth it. I don't know. I don't know the reasons why, but it shouldn't have happened.
It's evil. It's outright evil. I think a lot of people, especially in America, it's hard for us to comprehend this because we, if we have the resources, especially we're in a hospital, let's say a public hospital, even if it's someone who's on Medicaid or whatever it might be, if they get resources, if they get assistance, they can choose a different doctor. They can go somewhere else, provided someone's paying for it. There's a freedom of movement and a right to make decisions, especially as a parent, for the healthcare for your child, to seek out the best specialists, to change hospitals, to change treatment courses, etc. But you don't have that right in England.
No. I didn't realize that parents have no rights at all. And you go to a court, and you've got the Guardian, which is the Kafkas, to call it over here. You've got the NHS and the judge, and they've all got the same boss. They're all run by the state. So they're basically working for each other. And whatever the NHS want, the judges will just stamp it. And to me, this, even though I knew I had no chance of winning, because of how corrupt it is, I still was willing to fight and go all the way.
So let's move forward then. Italy has made this incredible offer. There are experts waiting to care for baby Indy at the Bambino Gesù Hospital. You have this great opportunity and it's all paid for. And there are children who are alive and living and thriving with the same condition. There's even a 30-year-old, like you said, in America. What did it feel like for you when you continually asked to leave, to take Indy to get this care, and they said, no, we're keeping her here, and we want to remove her breathing support?
When I first got the offer from Italy, I was laying in bed, and I got an email saying that Indy's been granted citizenship, and my heart just filled with emotion. It kind of brought back faith in humanity, thinking, why? How can Italy want to come and help my daughter and my own country don't want to help her? So it was I was kind of like gobsmacked, and it just felt amazing. And then I still went to the courts to get permission. I'm thinking, well, I shouldn't be going to court to get permission for another. But this country, I can remember the judge saying in the court to the NHS doctors and to us saying, he can't force a doctor to do anything. But then you've got these doctors wanting to take a child in. So why wouldn't he let us go? So that's just lies. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can he refuse? How can you refuse a child who is going to save a life? They're paying for everything. All they wanted the UK to do was just agree and maybe just take her in an ambulance to the helicopter. And they refused that. And it just felt like so inhumane and evil. And the part where I say it felt like I was being dragged to hell, that's what it felt like. Just felt like I was in hell.
And then how long from that point when they said, no, we're not going to allow her to get this treatment, to be taken to Italy for the treatment, until they removed her breathing support?
And they refused, and then they set a date to where they was going to remove breathing support, but it was meant to be a place chosen by us, whether we wanted the hospital, home, or the hospice. But obviously I appealed I appealed it. So it was coming up to the day of where they was going to take the breathing tube out, and they're like, "We're going to take it out today at 2:00." And like, well, we haven't chose where we wanted to do it yet or anything. And plus, I'm appealing it, and they're like, "Well, if you don't hear anything by 2:00, we're taking it out." In the hospital that day, so got anxiety and I'm stressed, thinking, "Oh my God, what they're doing and stuff." And then obviously we appealed it because they said that we could choose where we wanted it to happen. But then the NHS ended up taking us back to court because they saying we can't take her home for it to happen. So they even stopped her coming to home. And so they stopped her going to Italy, a chance to live, and then they stopped her coming home to pass away. So it was just something like out of a movie. It's like, how can this be happening to us? What has Indy done to them? And they wouldn't even let her bring her home.
And the justification for not letting her breathe. The justification, I mean, they didn't give her the procedure to open her heart, to let her breathe. They refused that. She's having some struggle to breathe. So they're going to remove her breathing support. What was their justification? What would they say to you that this is the right thing for us to do that effectively is going to kill this baby?
The basic is saying it's in Indy's best interest to pass away. And how can it be in anybody's best interest to pass away? It's like, to me, it feels like it's legalized murder. That's what it feels like. It's not even, is it even legal? I don't know. But it's in her best interest because she may suffer a little bit of pain. That just because you suffer a little bit of pain, then you should be sent to your death. It's wrong. She just needed the right treatment and the right care, and she could have had a good quality of life. And we've got professionals agreeing with us. So the justification was wrong. It was just crazy.
Dean, eventually you would lose your appeal and they would forcibly, against your wishes, against your will, remove your precious daughter's breathing support. Can you tell us, I can imagine only how painful it was for you to watch your daughter die. Can you share with us about what that experience was for you?
Well, just before that, the Italians, they activated the Hague Convention. And they activated that on the Wednesday or the Thursday. I think it was a Wednesday. And we had a court hearing on the Friday, and the judges didn't even acknowledge it. And this is surely, how can a judge not acknowledge the Hague Convention? It's legal. So then on the Friday, they're saying that Indy had to go to the hospice on the Saturday. She wasn't able to come home. It was too unsafe for Indy to come home. We live 18 minutes away from the hospital. The hospice was 40 minutes away. So how can it be too unsafe to come home? So I can remember being at the hospital and with Claire, and only one person's allowed in the ambulance, and the transporting Indy on a bed, and it just felt cruel and evil. And I had to drive there, but Claire says when she went down to go into the ambulance, she got escorted by police and security guards, which obviously made her feel really bad, and like you're being forced. Having police with her is like crazy. It's insane. So we're being forced to go to this hospice, and we're having to sit there and see Indy suffer, because she wasn't suffering in the last 4 weeks, because the infection died off. So she was getting back to normal. And then when they took the breathing apparatus out, she had 2 feeding tubes in her nose. And it's called NJ and NG. One goes in the top stomach, one goes in the lower stomach. As they've pulled the ventilation out, which was through the nose, it also ripped them out. and they went up about 4 or 5 inches. And whenever Indy was in hospital and they moved probably an inch, she would have to have an X-ray to make sure they're in the right place. So obviously they've ripped them out, they've gone up 4 inches, and then they've put the mask on her because she needed the mask. So we don't know what position them tubes was in. And then when they first done it, about 5 minutes later, Indy, it looked as though Indy passed away straight away. Which was, the doctor took his gloves off and he said, "I'm sorry." And the machine, they had like a portable machine with the heart monitor on and stuff. And it kind of just went off. So they walked out of the room, and I took the lead out of the machine and plugged it back in, and then her stats came back on. So her heart rate, and so she come back to life, which was a big relief. And she was pretty stable, but then when they restarted the feeds, I didn't realise at the time, but you could see Indy, she had a free drainage pipe on. She was tensing her stomach like she was vomiting, and then it was coming out in the bag. So I don't think them tubes was in the right place. So I don't know if that's why she passed away, because of the tubes. But it's probably she didn't suffer until they sent her there.
I'm so sorry, Dean. I cannot. It's hard to fathom the pain that you and Claire must have felt watching her suffer.
Yeah.
And needlessly. So she was breathing even after they removed the breathing support, messing up her feeding support in the process, possibly in a severe way that led to her death. We don't know. She was breathing on her own.
She had a face mask. The court order said she could have a face mask on for 7 days. But when they pulled the tubes out, I don't know if it was accidental because it was all on the same tape, or if it was, I don't know. It seemed like it was accidental, but still, if they just move up an inch, you're supposed to have an X-ray to make sure, because you could fill your lungs up with fluid or anything. And I've never seen her the way she was tensing like that for like a couple of minutes, contracting her stomach. So she lasted two days. But on the like I say, on the next day, she was just kept contracting, and then the mask for some reason was really humid, and there was water in the mask, big lumps of water. But we got told we was going to a hospice because it's better quality care. But the nurses only came in to give her the medicines. That was it. So we was left to watch her die and suffer, which I'll never forgive.
It's barbaric what they did to your daughter, Dean. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
When Indy passed, what did you and Claire do?
Well, I was really angry, to be honest. Claire was holding Indy. I was angry. I just wanted to get out of that place. The children was in the other room, like it was like a joint on flat, and they was asleep. And because I was forced there and didn't want to be there, and it just felt wrong. Everything. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I was like, we need to go. I'm not staying here. Like, it's okay, because it's not okay. So I can remember it's hot. It was hard, but I went back in the room, gave Indy a hug and a kiss, and told her goodbye. Sorry. So we were left. We picked the kids up, took the stuff out, and went. And then a few days later, they contacted me, and I had to sign the death certificate. So we went to sign the death certificate. Well, on it, it just said mitochondrial disease and a heart problem. It said the doctor didn't examine her after the death. So I was like, well, I'm not signing that because I want to know what she passed away from. And they took it to the coroner, and the coroner refused to do an inquest, which can be done by just a scan, a simple scan. So again, more corruption. I explained to him about what happened with the feeding tubes to the woman in the office, and she said she'll pass it on to the coroner, but they didn't want to know, and it was either going back to court and then messing about with the funeral and stuff. I thought it's just going to be more corruption and something else we're not going to win. So I had to sign it in the end for the funeral. But she did die of a condition. It was something to do with them feeding tubes. But they wanted to do a coroner report, so I don't know.
And if you hadn't signed it, they wouldn't have let you have her body for the funeral?
We couldn't have buried her, no. Yeah. So it was a bit... I didn't want to do that to her. She needed just to rest in peace.
Dean, what do you think should happen? You've lost your daughter to a horribly corrupt system that killed her. It didn't need to happen. She didn't need to die. What do you think needs to happen in England?
We just need a law where parents have got more rights. We should be able to, as a parent, decide if another hospital is willing to treat them or to take them in, then they should be able to go. Or at least get other opinions from other independent people. I can remember asking when Indy was 3 months old if I could bring in a doctor from the outside. And they said, no, it has to be NHS. But, you know, they're all colleagues, all work together. So it's a bit, why can't I just get a doctor from abroad or something like that to come in, and then you can listen to his report, and, you know, it helps you decide things better and understand things better if you've got more opinions. But if there's a country or a hospital willing to take a child in for free, then how can it to me, it feels impossible that you can't let that happen. It's just like say, barbaric and inhumane, and why it happened. Was it so it don't happen in the future? So if there was a let us go, then that means they're going to have to let everybody go. What's so bad about that? If it can save a child's life, then it can save a child's life.
What's next for you and Claire, Dean?
Well, we're just going to try and enjoy Christmas for the kids. And then in the new year, there's a few other parents what this has happened to, and that they all want to try and get together and create a group to try and change the law. I don't want this happening to anybody else. It shouldn't be happening. Other countries are even looking at us as the UK and saying, what the hell are you doing to your children? This shouldn't be happening. It's just wrong. I just don't know how they can get away with it, to be honest.
Well, we want to help you in any way that we can, and your fight in Indy's memory, I think, will be so important for future children and their families.
I hope so. Yeah, it's been hard, but she didn't deserve to die. She was worth. I'd do it all over again for her. It's just, I hope people can realise how corrupt the system is now. And I think people are understanding. People just can't understand. People are coming to me saying, I just can't understand why they didn't let her go. You know, it wouldn't cost them anything. You get drunken people or people on drugs go into hospitals and get all the treatment they want. This was just a young child.
Dean, is there a way people can support you in the future and Claire and your efforts?
just fight for your children. That's you don't need to support me. Just try and give people better advice. People have contacted me saying that the hospital wants to take the child to the hospice, and I tell them don't accept it. Fight for your child, because everybody deserves a chance to live. If it costs one child a little bit more money, then so be it.
At one point, you and Claire decided to have Indy baptized. Is this something you had chosen for your other kids, or what went into your thought process for making that decision?
The thing is that, some people are born into religion with the families or the mums and dads take them to church. Me and Claire, we wasn't born into religion, but going down, what happened to me and what I was seeing around me just felt evil, and going to the courts, it just felt like hell. And like I said in some of my statements, if there's a hell, there must be a heaven. And I just want to protect Indy's soul.
I have one more question for you, Dean, and that's, I didn't get to really ask yet, but how did you and Claire meet? And tell me a little bit about your family.
We knew each other at school, but it wasn't until like 10 years later we started talking to each other, and then that's how we met, really. It was online, on Facebook, as most people talk these days. Then we had a Vienna who's 6, and we both got a child from previous relationships, and they're both called Olivia. We've just recently, we got not sent, but Italy. We went over to Italy recently to get an award, which is on there for fighting, and it was really nice. Went to the presidential palace to meet Alfredo Montanova, I think his name is. Really nice guy who helped us in the case. Italy's been amazing. The people are just so loving and totally different from the UK. They're just, you can just tell they care about each other. And we went to Pro Vita Familia. It's like a pro-life association. They really helped us in the case. And we met them, and there was other parents there with the children. And they was really inspired by how we fighted for Indy, and it was really nice. So Indy's heart will for us always be in Italy. Yeah.
Well, your moral clarity, Dean, that Indy deserved to live and get the best treatment that you could provide, and your willingness to fight for her against tremendous pressure from the courts, from the hospital, from society, really, even in UK, is an example to millions across the world. And I think your story and the work you're going to do with these other parents next month, I'll be praying for that, is so important, and can, I think, make the difference in the UK to prevent this from ever happening again.
Yeah, I hope so. I couldn't bear to imagine someone else's child going through it, never mind my own. So we'll keep fighting. We do need justice for India and all the other people what it's happened to.
Well, Dean, once you have that meeting, and if there's a website I can direct people to, is there a website you recommend people go to support the cause in the UK to change the law?
As soon as one's set up, then I'll let you know, definitely.
We will spread it far and wide.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate you opening up and sharing about Indy's life, even this horrific experiences, despite the horrific experience that you and Claire endured and that she endured. But thank you for your courage, and thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you. No problem.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Lila Rose podcast. It's hard to imagine being in the shoes that Dean and Claire were in, watching their little girl die, not being able to help her, watching ultimately medical professionals who were supposed to help her kill her. There is a way to help Dean. I think he was too humble to mention it, but there is a GoFundMe that can help them in the future with legal fights for babies like Indy, so that this doesn't happen again. That link is in the bio, and as Live Action and myself learn more about how we can support his efforts and the efforts of the parents of the late Alfie Evans and Charlie Gard, we will absolutely let you know. So check out that GoFundMe. Please pray. Pray for an end to abortion. Pray for an end to euthanasia. Pray for respect for human life. and continue to spread the word about what's really happening. The darkness will thrive in secret. So we have to expose it. Share this podcast with 10 people, send it to a friend. That will help it reach more people. And continue to pray with me for an end to the culture of death and for a culture of life to be renewed, and that we can help be a part of making it happen. Okay, guys, so we're on Locals now. Locals.com is a place where you can support your favorite creators, speakers, those that are creating content. And what's so cool about Locals.com is that it's 100% run by the creator so that I can stay in touch with you even if I stop using Locals. This is not like Patreon. It's also a free speech platform that respects the creators and what they say. They're not going to censor me because we're pro-life or pro-marriage or whatever it is. So check out Locals.com. Go to our profile. It's linked in the bio. Become a subscriber. You can be a free subscriber and you can become a paid subscriber to help the podcast reach more people. Check it out today at locals.com. Don't forget, as always, to subscribe to the Lila Rose Podcast YouTube channel and ring that notification bell so you never forget or miss another episode. And if you're listening on podcast, don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or on Apple Podcast and leave us a review. That review helps the podcast reach more people. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.